Welcome back to another Tactical Fly Fisher video. I'm your host and Tactical Fly Fisher owner, Devin Olson. In this video, we're going to talk about fly tying's big problem today, or at least one of the problems that I think is a big problem, and that is hook sizing.
Welcome back to Guess That Hook Size. And now for $1 million. Contestant, are these two hooks the same size or different sizes?
I'm going to go with B, different sizes.
Oh, that is not right. These are both the same size.
So, if you're like me, you've been tying flies for a long time, and you've seen a lot of changes over the last few decades. I first started tying flies 31 years ago when I was 7. In fact, I started tying flies before I actually started fly fishing. And back then, you could basically get 4 brands kind of regularly. And that was Tiemco, Mustad, which I jokingly referred to as Rustad when I was a kid. And then in some shops, you'd be lucky if you could also find some Dairiki or Daiichi hooks. Now, there wasn't a lot of variety as a result, and almost all of the hooks that were out there were barbed. And if there were barbless versions, they were basically their standard shape of their barbed hook, but just simply missing a barb. And those barbless hooks never gained traction, mainly because the shapes that they had were poor at holding fish, because they weren't designed to hold fish without the barb. And so you'd lose a lot of fish on them. They never became popular, unfortunately. But when I first started competing back around 2006, there were some really early hook models in the competition barbless, market, or part of the market. And I think I first picked up a couple models in 2006 or 7 from Hanek and Napik and Skalka, which were all 3 Czech brands, and basically hooks that were being made pretty much in the garages of the guys who started those companies. Hanek's really the only one that's sort of arisen and continued to progress, and whose quality and offerings have come up a lot since then. But those early hooks were pretty poor quality, as you might imagine, just because they didn't have a lot of quality control and they weren't being made in actual hook factories. And but they were good shapes that held fish well as long as the hook points weren't rolling or the hooks weren't bending out on you. So I tried some of those early on, but the performance was poor enough that I just ended up going back to regular barbed hooks but pinching them. But then over the last 15 years, there's been drastic improvements in the quality and the range and the shapes of barbless hooks that are out there, and that's mainly been spurred on because of competitions and competitors, asking for better hooks and better shapes. But then once that market developed, other people caught on and realized, hey, these hooks are great. They're much better for fish. They don't lead to lots of scar tissue or even things like maxillaries being ripped off of fish so that fish are smiley. And so they're better for the fish. They're easier to get out, both of the fish and of you. And I'm a huge fan of competition-style barbless hooks for a reason. And that's why we've chosen pretty much to focus on only those in our fly tying selection in our shop. But one of the problems that has come out of this radiation of hooks is that the sizing is all over the place. You'll have massive gaps from the smallest length in a size 14 to the largest length in a size 14. And so if you're not familiar with a hook already, you might buy a new hook and it might be a wildly different size than what you expect it to be when you just click on that size 16 and you put it in your cart, and then it shows up at your house and you're like, well, gosh, that's a lot bigger or a lot smaller than I expected it to be. So here at Tactical Fly Fisher, I wanted to fix that for you. And we finished a big project over the last couple of months. I had my warehouse manager, Brad, sit down and measure to the 1/10 of a millimeter every hook model that we have in the shop. And so now, if you look under every hook, when you go to purchase a hook to tie flies, if you look in the product description, at the bottom of that product description, we have a table that lists the measured total hook length for each size that's offered in that hook that we had in stock, at least at the time of Brad measuring him. So now you can take a hook that you might be familiar with and go and look at that size of hook. Then if you want to purchase a new hook, you can look at the sizing and be able to compare them apples to apples so that you know exactly what length of hook to expect based on the size that you order in any new model of hook. And hopefully that'll simplify things for you. I just wanted to share a couple of the funny / sad things that have come out of this. So I took every measurement that Brad made and spliced them all up into the different sizes of hooks that were listed on the site. And if you look here in this table that I'll have Kramer put up here, there's an incredible spread in sizing between the same hook sizes. It's really quite amazing. But I wanted to share just a couple of them. So for instance, in our size 10 hooks, we had 112 SKUs in size 10 hooks in the shop, and we had a range, an average length of 15.4 millimeters. But the smallest size 10 hook in that range was 11.4 millimeters, and the largest was 23.3 millimeters. Pretty big gap between that range and pretty big size difference from that mean or that average size. Another one that a lot of folks these days are tying in plenty of 16s or smaller for their Euro nymphs. Well, in the shop we had 104 SKUs of size 16 hooks, and that range went from 7.5 millimeters, which is pretty darn close to almost like a size 18 or 20, and went all the way up to 16.6 millimeters. Huge range. So, but with a mean length of 9.8 millimeters on a size 16 hook. So you can see sort of the issue that we're dealing with here. And even before competition barbless hooks came out, there were hooks that were labeled standard shank, 1XL, 2XL, 3XL shank hooks, but nobody really knows what any of that truly means. So having a specific exact measurement from the hook eye to the bend of the hook is the simplest way in my mind that we could try and address this issue for you, and I really hope it helps you out. So if you did like this video, please give us that thumbs up and subscribe to our Tactical Fly Fisher YouTube channel, and then come on over to tacticalflyfisher.com where you can buy any and all of the fly tying hooks that you're after and know exactly how long they're going to be once they hit your mailbox. Thanks for watching.